Keith Urban is on stage for his first show since Nicole Kidman.
Hollywood is reeling from a revelation no one saw coming. For nearly 20 years, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban professed their love for one another in interviews and appeared an unbreakable unit. But after years of speculation surrounding their marriage, Russell Crowe has finally broken his silence. And what he's revealed is nothing short of shocking. As one of their closest friends, Crowe has witnessed private moments the world never knew about. He was there from the very beginning, a quiet constant in their corner. Now his confession is sending shockwaves through the entertainment industry. What secret has he been holding on to all these years? Today, we uncover Russell Crowe's stunning truth about Nicole and Keith. In Hollywood's blinding spotlight, friendships often fade. But long before she became a global icon, Nicole Kidman formed a bond that would endure. Her deep, unshakable connection with Russell Crowe. Their connection wasn't born under the flashbulbs of a movie premiere, but in the gritty, hopeful world of the Australian entertainment industry. This foundation, built far from the prying eyes of the world, created a unique pact of loyalty. Through every headline and every public heartbreak, Russell Crowe was the one who remained. This gave his perspective an unparalleled weight. He wasn't some distant acquaintance piecing together tabloid reports. He was a gatekeeper to her world. And he was there on that fateful night in January 2005 at the G'day L.A. Gala, the night everything changed. From across a glittering room, Crowe watched as Nicole Kidman and a charismatic country singer named Keith Urban first crossed paths. He saw the spark. He also saw the hesitation. According to sources close to the trio, Crowe played a gentle but essential role, creating opportunities for them to connect. He witnessed their story from its very first page, never knowing he would one day be the one to reveal its final heartbreaking chapter. The romance that would captivate the world didn't begin with a thunderclap, but with a period of agonizing silence. After that first meeting, 4 long months passed before Keith called. But when he finally found his courage, the romance caught fire with an intensity that felt unstoppable. By June of 2006, barely a year and a half after their first encounter, they were husband and wife. It was the perfect Hollywood fairy tale, a union of 2 of Australia's brightest stars. But this is where the story deepens, where the polished veneer cracks to reveal the harrowing truth of what it took to build their love. Because just 4 months after their wedding, the fairy tale imploded. In October 2006, Keith Urban, who had long battled his demons with addiction, spiraled once more and checked himself into rehab. He would later admit with brutal honesty, "I caused the implosion of my fresh marriage. It was a moment that would have destroyed almost any other relationship." But Nicole Kidman's response was nothing short of heroic. She didn't walk away. She canceled everything. Film promotions, career obligations, her entire world was put on hold to stand by the man she had just married. It was an act of incredible strength and unwavering faith. From his vantage point, Russell Crowe watched it all unfold. He allegedly saw a dynamic being forged that would cast a long shadow, a relationship built on rescue. It was a love story tested by fire, creating a bond that seemed unbreakable. They had survived a crisis that would have shattered anyone else. And that is precisely what makes the truth of its eventual end so devastating. After the trial by fire of Keith's recovery, their marriage seemed invincible. But as the years unfolded, a more insidious enemy began to creep into their lives, one that couldn't be conquered in a 30-day program. It was the slow, corrosive effect of distance. The engine of Keith Urban's career was the open road. His demanding tour schedule meant he spent approximately 200 days per year away from home. This wasn't just a number. It was a reality that carved their life in two. For more than half of every year, they were living in separate worlds. In a moment of shocking candor, Keith himself revealed the harsh reality of that life, describing the profound loneliness of waking up on a tour bus, sick, miserable, and missing his family. That profound loneliness, night after night in a different city, creates a void. And voids are dangerous. According to Crowe, Keith started pulling away several years ago, and they'd been on a distant and downhill trajectory ever since. The physical distance was breeding an emotional chasm that no amount of devotion seemed able to bridge. It was in this growing chasm that the first deeply unsettling red flags began to appear. From Russell Crowe's vantage point, these weren't just the normal strains of a marriage under pressure. They were classic behavioral shifts that hinted at something more. The first and most obvious sign was the phone. Keith allegedly became intensely protective of it, turning it face down on tables and becoming sharply defensive if Nicole asked who he was texting. For a couple married for nearly 2 decades, this sudden digital secrecy was a chilling development. That defensiveness began to bleed into their conversations. When Nicole would ask normal questions about his day, Keith's answers became vague and clipped. He seemed emotionally unavailable. But perhaps the most telling sign was the one that played out in public. Around the same time, Keith's public declarations of love became more frequent and more grandiose. At the AFI ceremony in April 2024, he delivered a tear-jerking tribute to his wife, crediting her with saving his life. At the time, the world saw a devoted husband, but according to Russell Crowe's interpretation, this was something else entirely. It was a textbook case of overcompensation. He was performing devotion for the cameras, creating a dazzling public narrative of worship that served as the perfect cover for his questionable private behavior. The louder the public praise, the more it can mask a private betrayal. And Crowe, watching from the inside, reportedly saw the painful disconnect. Nicole Kidman is not a woman who is easily fooled. She is intelligent, perceptive, and fiercely intuitive. The smile she offered on red carpets masked a growing unease. Behind closed doors, she was an investigator in her own life, slowly piecing together a puzzle she didn't want to solve. The breaking point didn't arrive with a thunderous crash, but in the silent blue glow of a phone screen late one night. For years, Nicole had lived with a quiet, gnawing intuition. And in a single devastating moment, her worst fears were confirmed. According to the narrative constructed around Crowe, Nicole discovered a series of concerning messages on Keith's phone. The exchanges were allegedly with a female backup vocalist from his touring band. As Nicole scrolled through the conversations, a cold reality set in. The messages suggested private meetings and a clear, calculated deception. This was the end of plausible deniability. The breaking point had arrived. The confrontation itself reportedly occurred after a holiday party. What began as a simple question about his secretive communications escalated into a 4-hour conversation that stretched until dawn. This was not a screaming match. It was a methodical, heartbreaking presentation of the truth. By morning, Nicole had issued her final warning, an ultimatum for complete transparency, a reduced tour schedule, and couples therapy. This was his one and only chance to save their marriage. For a few fragile months, it seemed as though the promise might hold, but this reconciliation proved to be a temporary, heartbreaking illusion. Russell's revelation, as portrayed by gossip outlets, suggests that by the following summer, Keith had returned to his concerning patterns. The promises made in the desperate early hours of that morning were broken. This was the final, unforgivable betrayal. It wasn't just an initial act. It was the disrespect of the final warning. It was the realization that the man she had saved was either unwilling or unable to keep his word to save them. This timeline, put forth by the rumor mill, explains everything that baffled the public. It explains the loving anniversary posts in June 2025, a moment when Nicole was still holding on to hope. And it explains the cold, hard reality of the alleged divorce proceedings that began just weeks later. Once the final warning was broken, Nicole supposedly moved forward with swift and silent determination. The trust wasn't just damaged, it had been pulverized. The time for warnings was over. The time for consequences had begun. So, is any of it true? For months, the internet has been dominated by this single dramatic story. We have been presented with filing dates, divorce finalizations, and custody percentages. But what happens when you step away from the echo chamber of YouTube gossip channels and look for the facts? This is the real truth that has been hidden in plain sight. Despite the countless videos declaring the marriage over, as of this moment, there has been no official confirmation of a divorce from any credible mainstream news source. There have been no statements from Nicole Kidman's or Keith Urban's official representatives. There are no public court records from Nashville that confirm a filing on September 30th, 2025, or a finalization on January 6th, 2026. The entire elaborate story, the 17% custody arrangement, the text message scandals, the secret backup singer, appears to be a fabrication. It is a house of cards built on speculation, with one gossip channel citing another in a circular loop of misinformation. So, what is real? It is a fact that Keith Urban has battled severe addiction. It is a fact that Nicole Kidman staged an intervention just months into their marriage. It is a fact that their careers are incredibly demanding. And it is a fact that Russell Crowe is a longtime friend. These real-world pressures are the fertile ground in which the fictional story of their divorce has been planted. The gossip machine took the real, documented struggles of their past and extrapolated them into a dramatic, fabricated future. The truth that Russell Crowe has finally revealed is not the story of a divorce. It's a collection of unverified quotes attributed to him to give the rumors an air of credibility. In the end, the real story is not about a marriage that ended. It is about how the mechanics of online media can construct an entirely false reality. And in the aftermath of this quiet digital storm, two very different pictures emerge. On one side, reports suggest Keith Urban has retreated from the spotlight, embarrassed and tired. On the other side stands Nicole Kidman. There are no dramatic displays, no public mudslinging. Instead, the world sees a woman who carries her life with a quiet, steely strength. Her energy is not directed at the past, but firmly on moving forward, protecting her daughters, and continuing the work that has defined her life. She handled the storm of rumors the same way she has handled every other crisis in her life, with a profound and formidable dignity. Her legacy is not defined by a man or a marriage, but by the unbreakable strength with which she quietly and firmly presides over her own life. The world can now see the full picture, and it is one of resilience.